So the Southwest United States is running out of water. I mean, I know it sounds hyperbolic. I know it sounds crazy. But they're at like around 35% capacity for what it should be. That seems like a problem to me. Now, hopefully at some point, there's a huge wet season or something and we can get back to some semblance of normalcy, but we don't know. And so right now it's a little bit, we're close to panic time. They're about to declare some sort of an emergency within the next year or two. So here's a piece from Now This discussing this topic, and then we'll break it down.
The Colorado River, one of the longest rivers in the U.S., is drying up. So much so that for the first time ever, the U.S. government is expected to declare a water shortage in the region. But why is this happening? Well, to no one's surprise, scientists are attributing the megadrought to climate change. The Colorado River is famously known for passing through 7 states in the Southwest, having rich biodiversity, the Hoover Dam, and for providing drinking water to approximately 40 million people. But according to the US Drought Monitor map, the Southwest is exceptionally dry, which is the worst category possible, and it's taking a toll on the Colorado River system. It's projected that the river could lose anywhere between 14 to 31% of its flow by 2050, depending on how hot temperatures get. In fact, researchers say that for each additional 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit of warming, the river's average flow can drop by about 9%. However, what's being affected the most right now is Nevada's Lake Mead, which is the nation's largest reservoir. It's formed by the Hoover Dam right on the Colorado River. It's also a crucial water supply for Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Southern California, for both its people and agriculture. Lake Mead has dropped 130 feet since the year 2000, which is about the height of a 13-story building. The drought has also cut the dam's hydropower output by about 25%. This is what it looked like in 2000 when the water would come right up to the top of Hoover Dam. And this is what it looks like now, at just 37% capacity. Unfortunately, if it continues to drop, the dam might stop producing electricity altogether. Scientists have pinpointed that the melting of the reflective snow is what's making the river super sensitive to increasingly warming temperatures. You see, the snow is meant to serve as a protective shield against sunlight. But because the world is getting hotter, precipitation is falling more as rain instead of snow in certain areas. The snow is also melting earlier and faster in the year. So without snow, the water absorbs the sun rays and evaporates. So what's the solution? At this point, adapting. Water managers and policymakers, along with area residents and farmers, will have to adapt to new guidelines of water usage as the increase of severe water shortages is expected. Basically, people are going to have to learn how to live with less water. As I mentioned earlier, for the first time in history, the federal government is expected to declare a water shortage on the lower Colorado River, which will impact water supply for Nevada and Arizona residents and farmers starting in 2022. The 7 states surrounding the river have also created the Colorado River Drought Contingency Plan, DCP for short, with the goal to reduce water supply risks and find proper ways to distribute water within streams and lakes. As for what you can do, well, try to conserve as much water as possible. The average American family uses more than 300 gallons of water a day, and a lot of that water is wasted through leaks, inefficient appliances, water faucets that are left running, etc. So the next time you leave the faucet or shower running, just remember, we're running out of water.
Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. So you saw, like, by 2022, they're going to declare some sort of emergency. I mean, we're just, like, literally hoping that it rains enough to fill it back up. Like, what? So, listen, we've talked about this previously on the show, but one of the scariest things to consider when it comes to climate change is that eventually there's going to be wars over water. I mean, unless we come up with the ability to desalinate at a mass scale, so you could use the ocean water for drinking water. Unless you're able to do that, there's eventually going to be wars over water. So rising sea levels is one thing. It's a whole other thing when there's just not enough water and people are fighting over that necessary resource. Another thing is more people are moving to the southwest of the U.S. as, they need water restrictions and they're running out of water. I read an article in 2015 about how the Middle East by the end of the century could be too hot for humans to even live there. Parts of Asia as well. Too hot for humans to even live there. Where the heat index, so it feels like it's 160 degrees. And when that happens, when it's too hot to live there, what do you think happens? Everybody's got to move out of there. It's going to be a migration crisis, the likes of which you've never seen. People will not be able to stay where they live by the water if it's, effectively at sea level, or in some instances below sea level, like parts of Louisiana. They had something like 8 hurricanes hit them in this last hurricane season, and people are leaving there. They're like, fuck, if this is going to be like this every year, we're just going to get hit with hurricanes every single year. People are leaving there. The sea level's going to rise. It's going to engulf all that. In the Middle East and in parts of Asia, it's going to be too hot for humans to live. They're going to empty out of there. And then we have a political crisis, the likes of which we haven't seen maybe ever, but definitely since like World War II. We have entire countries emptying out and desperately looking for other places to go, and a lot of countries are going to close their borders, and the ones that open it'll either way, it'll be a mess. If you close it down, deeply, inhumane, but if you open them up, you also don't have the organization and the process in place in order to really handle the flow of migrants, and I'm talking everywhere here. So this is what happens. This is what happened with climate change. And now we're setting as I talk to you guys right now, records are being set. I believe in Seattle, it's supposed to be like 113 degrees, which is a record for there. It's a record. Terrifying stuff, man. Terrifying stuff. I mean, it goes without saying, we have to get off of fossil fuels ASAP. And by the way, responsible for most of the emissions, big corporations. So even when you yell at people like, you shouldn't do as many carbon emissions as you're doing, it's not an individual problem. It's a corporate problem and a collective problem, and it needs to be addressed at the policy level. But either way, think this is bad, it's going to get a hell of a lot worse. So buckle up. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.